Joining us on the How Did You podcast today is Jordan. He's a massive creative. He's freelanced. He's been in Lad Bible. He's been in lots of different companies who you may have heard of, but more importantly, Jordan has taken his own path. And at a very young age, he's decided how he's going to do things. How are you doing today, Jordan?
Well, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. As I alluded to in the intro, you've taken things on your own path. How have you found your journey and who are you as a person?
Well, big questions, sort of. So the first thing about my journey. So I guess, I started off, well, as we all do at school. And during school, I was always sort of interested in creating brands, projects, like just making stuff and making things that had logos and felt like real things. And I always had this fascination with just kind of, just creating entities. So I started a bunch of projects when I was at secondary school. Started a clothing company called Black Mountain Clothing because my last name's Schwarzenberger. So I thought, okay, that's fine, which means Black Mountain in German. And set that up when I was about 14, 15, did a film review online magazine called Lost VHS with a couple of guys at school when I was about 13, 14, similar sort of time. No, actually I did that first and then Black Mountain afterwards. Did a bunch of other just bits at school. I was always interested in kind of creating, and got to the end of school and realized that the kind of university path that everyone was pushing very hard on all of us, even in a nice way that my school did, it was still like, okay, this is what you do. I had an instinct that wasn't quite right for me and for anyone else really, but really for me, I thought this wasn't right. So when I was in my last year, I'd applied for a bunch of degrees in things again that was trying to do a degree that wasn't a degree, because again that instinct was coming through. And I'd applied and got an offer from King's to study a degree called digital culture at King's, which was the first year they were going to do it. Looked kind of interesting. It looked basically like the best that you could get from uni, rather than it being objectively the right thing to spend my next 3 years doing, which is just insane when I think about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I applied for it, got in, but then there was something again still telling me, don't do this, or find a way out. I was just like, I need a way out. This isn't right. Let me find a way out. And I sort of looked around and didn't really know what jobs were, what sort of jobs are out there. Is you don't when you're sort of 17, 18. But I knew that Vice, of all the companies that I could think of, Vice were a company that I thought were great. And I was like, these guys are doing cool stuff. It was in their sort of documentary days where they were obviously making amazing content, like killing it online. And I thought they're really cool. Just Vice is cool. Just there was that classic thing of like, yeah, they're cool. And I looked online, saw there was a job there called a junior creative, and thought, okay, that's the job that I would like to do. Like, again, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea that it was actually in the ad agency side of things called Virtue, but I just thought that is cool. It's got the word creative in it. I know I like doing creative things. Feels like a good match. So I remember printing off the job description and just having that in my head, like that's the job that I want to aim for. And then what happened was a friend of mine, Noah, at school, he had done work experience there before. So he had a bunch of emails. And I thought, right, let me do my classic thing, which is work when I was doing my film magazine, of just emailing 20 people, 30 people, 50 people, 100 if you need to, because it will always get to the point where you'll get one or two replies. The more you email, the more you'll get something if you've got a gem there, right? And I think that's it's a practice that I say to a lot of people, just keep going, because you will get something. If you just do enough, you'll get something. If what you're saying is right, and if it's got enough of an angle to it, to a point. So yeah, anyway, so I did that, and I had about 20 emails, got 2 replies. And of those replies, one of them was from a woman called Amelia Abraham, who left Vice and went to Refinery 29. She was in the editorial team. And she said, yeah, come in. It basically said, like, can I get some advice and have a chat? And yeah, I came in, met her, and she was like, I heard of everything about me and what I wanted to do. And she said, you have to meet Ian Richardson, who is the head of the creative agency called Virtue. So I said, okay. She said, speak to him, set up. So I went to meet Ian the following week, I believe, met him, sat down, we got on really well. And he basically said, I was like, look, I love what you guys are doing. I just want to do anything other than uni, but I want to just like spend a bit of time with you. Can I? And he said, yeah, let's do it. I was quite like surprised. I was like, okay, there we go. That was not easy, because it wasn't easy per se, and obviously we got on well, but he was like, yeah, come as much as you like. So I said, that's amazing. Yeah. So I spent that summer, went to Glastonbury, when I had my 18th birthday at Glastonbury, came back very hungover and was like, right, let me start doing this thing. So I was doing work experience there for like 6 weeks. It was due to then start at King's in the summer. It was the best summer ever. We did so much fun stuff. from like just, you know, being like from creating documentaries, helping on researching, like coming up with concepts for stuff, learning just a little bit about the business of working in a sort of in-house agency, which Virtue was and is. And it was amazing. Had such a good time. Got back to the end of it and was like, right, now I have to start uni now. So it transitioned from doing every week there to then doing 1 day a week, which was a Friday while I was at King's. And it was the weirdest thing because I was at King's for 4 days in that week. Hated every minute of it. It was honestly the worst thing I've ever done in my life. No disrespect to King's, but it was terrible. And the Friday was the best day of the week. And I'd always come to Friday and be like, this was amazing. Like I'd go 4 days just hating, just being like, why am I doing this stupid course on this thing that just doesn't make any sense? It's not digital culture. And the irony was, of course, that there was the dichotomy of me studying digital culture during the week and then working actually in it on the Friday. So I knew that it just didn't match up. And so I was there for another however long until Christmas, and then we had the start of the Christmas party. Went out with the creative director and the associate creative director, who were sort of my two kind of mentors, if you will, in the agency, and we got on really well. And we had this conversation where basically we were just talking at 4 a.m. at this place, and we were just like, look, if you want to do this, we'd love to have you, but we don't want to obviously annoy your parents, because, like, you know, parents can get annoyed if somebody tells their kid to leave uni, and they actually do, because, you know, they didn't know my situation. My parents were really supportive, so it wasn't an issue, but they were like, yeah, we'd love to do it. So I said, okay, let's do it. And then that must have been on the Friday, dropped out over the weekend, didn't come back after Christmas, and that was just the beginning of the Christmas break. So I was at King's, and it was amazing. It was then at Lab Advice, for the next 2-3 months before Ian spoke to me, who was the head of the agency, and said, I've got this opportunity to go to Lab Bible and set up their agency. Do you want to come with me? I said, yeah, why not? Amazing, great. This is when Lad was like, obviously they recently just sold for 200 million and went public, but this is when they were kind of very small. Had a Manchester office, London office. London office had maybe like 10, 15 people. Manchester was a bit bigger, but it was great. And I went over there to be a junior creative in that agency, and loved it. Again, it was amazing. We were literally the start of that business. So it was, you know, Lab Bible had the editorial, but they didn't have any commercial wing. So we came to work with brands and help brands plug into the Lab Bible pages and inventory. And yeah, it was so fun. We did that for, I don't know, a year and a half. Feels like longer, but I think it was only about a year and a half in total. Loved every minute of it, made some amazing friends, and yeah, grew it from like the sort of small little chaotic, slightly problematic office that it was into a bit more of a consolidated proper unit. And I'm glad to sort of been able to play a small part in that. And yeah, they've gone on obviously to do great things, and Ian did an amazing job running that agency. But then towards the end of that point, I was like, right, look, I've worked with a bunch of brands, I've got enough experience to kind of take the value that I bring to Lad, which is being 18, 19, and take that out to other brands and other companies. So I thought, right, let me start my own agency, which I did, called Roundabout, which was like the first kind of Gen Z agency that existed. And I think there are a few others now, but it was like the first like Gen Z thing. That was it. I was like, yes, the Gen Z agency, like helping brands connect with whatever that even means. It's kind of rubbish, but still. And I did that for 6 months. And in that time, we had a bunch of clients, one of which was James Grant Group, who are a talent agency representing most of TV, people like your Anton Dex, Philip Schofield, your, you know, Frank Lampard at the time, Steve Aoki, just a bunch of big sort of celebrity talent, quote unquote celebrity talent, entertainment talent, and music, and a few others. I went there and as one of our clients, and it became apparent that like the skills and the fun of working at Lad and Vice could be transferred over to people just as much as it could be transferred over to pages. And so it was a light bulb moment for me where I thought, actually, the one piece that I'm missing is talent, actually, because on a personal level, I'd obviously worked in social, worked with editorial, magazines, publishers, but never people. And actually people buy people, they don't buy pages and platforms. So if you're somebody who has a real resonance for you and people love you, then obviously you're going to be a lot more impactful, and you can also grow a more engaged audience. So I thought, actually, let me apply the same sort of skills and the things that I learned through those publisher platforms and take that to talent. And we did that for a period of time during Roundabout. There were about 4 or 5 of us working on a bunch of different clients. But it got to the point where towards the end of 2017, I had a conversation with Mary Becker, who's now the CEO of the company. And she's incredible, like a real mentor and like really good friend. And she was the one who brought me in initially as like this 19-year-old, just like coming in, like telling everyone what to do. It was really, yeah, it was funny. But she brought me in, and we had a conversation after it just got better and better. It was like 1 day a week, then 2 days a week, and 3 days a week. And then actually she was like, look, we'd love for you to join full time if you wanted to. And so I thought about it. spoke to the other guys who were working in my team, and they were sort of doing sort of part-time, some freelance, some not. And they were like, you know what, actually, this is a good opportunity for us to go and do our own thing too. So it felt like a nice time to end it. So we ended it, and I joined, and they could have come with, but they were like, you know what, I want to do my own thing. And I joined them as the chief creative officer in 2018. Was there for 3.5 years in total, including the sort of consultant time. And loved it. Again, amazing. Like grew that, helped to play a small part in kind of growing the creative function of that business, help it develop more content formats, franchises, IP for talent, just to build that sort of creative slate, which we did. And I think now it's hopefully reaping some of the rewards of the work that the team and myself were able to kind of do during that time, and it was so much fun. But then again, it was like COVID hit, things changed in that business as well. And, things have sometimes run their course. It felt like it got to the point where I wasn't looking for anything, but I was definitely kind of, all right, what's next? What's a new challenge that I can go and do? And yeah, ended up coming into contact with my two business partners, well, one of which I was friends with, who worked with me a bit at YME, called Aaron, who's one of my co-founders. And then he came in contact with Sam, and we all came together and just had a conversation while I was at YME, just to say, what is there in this space? Because Sam is like the YouTuber accountant. Like he is so prolific in the sort of YouTube world for managing the account. So basically every big creator. And he was like, look, there's an opportunity to work with the Sidemen boys and to potentially speak to them about everything that they're doing. So we did, and they were like, yeah, let's go for it. We sort of said to them, look, you guys are doing an amazing job on all of this stuff over here with the content, and the growth is incredible, but actually all these business opportunities are alive and well, and actually we can be the team to go and take that on for you. So we did that, and like it's been 9, 10, 11 months. It'll be a year in April since we started working with the guys, and it's been a massive ride. I left YMU in March, started with the boys, with the Arcade boys, and then with the Sidemen boys in April. And since then, we've launched Side Plus, which is the membership club for the Sidemen. We've launched Sides, which is the fried chicken restaurant, which we've got in like 18 sites now, and we've launched XX Vodka, which is a vodka brand, and we've got more stuff coming. So yeah, it's been so much fun. The last year's definitely been the best year of my professional life, without a doubt. It keeps getting better and better, thankfully. And I think especially being able to work with Aaron and Sam and Victor and all these amazing people we've now got around us, and to have the freedom to do that, it's just been like a game changer creatively. So yeah, loving it. And we're just sort of growing and evolving with the guys and seeing what they want to do next, and helping them to ultimately realize some of the amazing ideas they've got in their head. So yeah, that's kind of it. Aside from that, I've got 2 babies, got a wife. What else? Just living life, mate. Just getting through. Yeah, I know that was a bit of a ramble, but yeah, there you go.
It's crazy. You really have grabbed life by the horns, and it's insightful to see, because like you say, you've made opportunities for yourself. And I do completely agree with, if you need or want someone's attention, always chase it, because it shows the initiative that you've got. Like, I've never really met you. This is the first time we've spoken. I chased you through LinkedIn. You then put me in contact with another person that then put me in contact for this. I completely agree with that. But you mentioned a lot of other things, but you're also the head of the youth council. How was that? Because that must have been another opportunity that kind of came out of nowhere.
Completely forgot about that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Alternet. So yeah, there's a few things I'm involved with outside of I guess that sort of that linear career path, so to speak. And yeah, 2 of those. One is Soho House. So working with those guys on the committee and helping to just be a sort of an active part of that of the house. I love it, and they've been an amazing team, a group of people. And then the other one is Alternet. So Alternet is an insane project that I came into contact with about 3 years ago. First year of YMU, actually, probably 2018. Through a friend of mine at school called Luke Gretsch. And I ended up going in there and speaking to them and got on really well with their team. And it just grew from there, really, where I was basically said to them, like, this project, I just came to sort of give them a bit of advice on social and creative, and just how I'd approach it as being someone young, given that they're launching, for those who don't know, like they've launched now, soft launch, £1 billion development in the middle of Tottenham Court Road, like an absolutely incredible campus of these amazing screens, like the best screens in Europe, restaurants, venues, like so much. It's incredible. And yeah, I sort of said to them, like, you guys need a youth board, because you need to have a bunch of young people around the table who are helping to kind of steer you on some of these decisions, because it's very easy if everyone in the office looks the same way, acts the same way, is the same way. It's very easy for things to become quite stale and one-dimensional. So I said, look, it's really important that you have that, and they've, again, super up for it. And so I sort of helped pull together a group of people who are brilliant sort of tastemakers and cultural like titans in a way for our generation, like really amazing people, and asked if they'd all want to be a part of it. And they've been very patient, because obviously it's not launched, it's been pushed back a few times, but they're really happy and excited to help make it amazing. So we're actually doing another meeting soon. We have one pushed back, but yeah, really exciting. And we meet 4 times a year, similar to Soho House, maybe 3 to 4 times a year. And the aim is to ultimately keep the project in check and make sure that the things that they're doing are aligned, and also come with ideas, help deliver concepts, be like a kind of a friends to the Alternet experience in the Alternet business, just so they've got like a sounding board with people who are more plugged in than they are, and they would be the first to admit that. If that makes sense.
Definitely. Like you say, April last year, mid-pandemic, the Sidemen took a chance, but that is a chance that definitely paid off, because you launched Side Plus. That's got lots of subscribers. There's loads of different campaigns going on with it at the moment. There's Zoom calls. It's all about connectivity, I guess. But you've also done 2 front runners of the YouTube kind of expansion as a whole, with Side Plus and XIX Vodka. They've sold out extremely quickly and have lots of attention. Why do you think this is, and did it surprise you when it first happened?
So do you mean Sides and XX, not Side Plus, I think, for the second 2, or do you mean Side Plus?
Sides and XX, my apologies.
Sides, yeah. No, not at all. So I think, you know what? I think was it surprising that they sold out? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think because the audience the guys had, and their cultural credibility, and their just general, the heat around their brand, and this is partly why it's been so amazing to work with them, it's like a creative stream, because you literally come up with these concepts and you're able to execute them and put them out to such a huge audience. And if they're delivered well, tonally sitting right, and you've put thought and love into the brands, then hopefully that'll resonate. And I think because of the sheer size of it, obviously that chance is a lot higher than if you haven't got that audience, right? That's why everyone would love to have that sort of scale, because it means you can execute and activate ideas at scale by default through the power of social. So yeah, was it a surprise that they both did really well? No, because the boys in their audience are unbelievable. But I am really glad that they did, and I'm also glad that they made the most exciting thing for me is helping to kind of create the infrastructure behind the scenes on those projects that gives it that sustainable long-term view, where you're bringing in great people around it. And like Sides, we recently hired a friend of mine who used to work with me at Lab Bible, called Adam Maddock, who's like unbelievably talented. He's the new marketing director of Sides. We've got people around XAX. We've built, we've got Noah on social on Sides, who's unreal. He's been leading on all of the channels with myself for the last few months. So it's just like a really good thing where we've got this group of people around it now who are brilliantly talented, passionate about the brand. And that's the best thing for me. It's more the kind of the structuring and blending that with the creative. But if you can't have the people, if you have great people in place, then it's really challenging to look at these as long-term plays, because if there isn't that real infrastructure, then they will fall on their feet. And that's something that I've been very aware of before we even started this, that we need people in place to run them and to build them and to have ownership of them. So yeah, that's the bit that is the most, not surprising, but it's a bit that I'm really glad we're starting to get ahead of. It's definitely not perfect, but it's getting there for sure on both brands. Side Plus has had that. We brought in Victor Benson, who's one of the most talented people I've ever worked with. He runs Side Plus. And yeah, we've got a really great group of people around us now. So I think it's just onwards, building that infrastructure out, helping to keep that growing to the point where the brands just sit and they run and they are brilliant and everyone loves them, and we ultimately don't have to touch them. That's when we know we're doing our job, I think.
It must be quite crazy because they have blown up and you've had to expand your team to suit that glow up and blow up, we'll put it that way. But on a personal level, forgetting arcade media, as a person and as yourself, do you have anybody that you look up to?
Yeah, I have so many, for sure. I look up to, yeah, but I mean, I guess from a business sense, um, I definitely, as in, yeah, a number of people that I look up to who I've sort of been either lucky enough to come into contact with recently, or people I've worked with from afar for a long time. I think one of those people is definitely Mary at YMU, who I've always looked up to since starting working with her, and she's ascended massively in that company and become obviously the new CEO. I think her predecessor Neil, I also look up to massively. He's an exceptional executor from a business perspective, and very, I mean, infinite wisdom in terms of how to deliver and drive and make things real. And I mean, I learned so much from both of them during my time there. I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with them. So those are two people who I look up to. Ian from obviously my time at Joyride and just the lab web agency, and also Advice, is somebody I also look up to massively. I always have done. And then a number of other people. Philip from Altinet, who's the CEO there. There's, Darren Garnham, who's the CEO of Tokido, recently got investment from Gary Vaynerchuk, which is, I mean, he's just killing it. He also has a company called Nifty. So yeah, huge inspiration. And it's just it's great to be in a position now, I think, where, yeah, I'm surrounded by people who I can lean on and talk to. And even if I don't speak to them for a while, I can always, it's great to be able to tap into the brilliance of people who are far more skilled and experienced and brilliant than me. But it's so great to be in a position where I can lean on those people more, now being somebody independently going and doing my thing than when you're in a company and you don't really have that need, I guess. So yeah, there's so many people around me who I look up to, and I think without those people to be your sort of flag bearers, but also to be your lights, if you will, that you look to from a business perspective, to say, right, they've done this, and also the way they do it. I think that's just as important. It's looking at people and seeing, somebody do a business always smiling, always happy, and they're making, crazy money for their businesses and smashing it. And actually they're doing it all in a way that is very inspirational. That can also that's just as important, I think, as just the pure results. So yeah, loads of people I look up to, on a professional level, on a personal level, a number of people as well. But yeah, I think it's super important to have that network who you can be like, right, these people are like, if I can get to 5% of what they're doing, then, I've done a good job.
But what is the future for Jordan? What is the future for Arcade Media? What is the future in your life?
Good question. I think one thing what is the future for me, for my company? I think for the Arcade, it's about, I mean, this is a decision that we've recently made, as a business too. It's kind of, we are so focused on the Sidemen and on their brand because we know just how much there is to do with that brand, and that's one thing that we're really keen on, is almost seeing, right, how far can we take this with them?
Mm-hmm.
Like how, they've got so many ideas, they're so up for stuff, and to manage, people are always surprised at the speed that we have as a whole, one big team, them included, been able to execute over the last year. And that's because they are exceptionally fast at decision making. Like, they can come to a conclusion very quickly, and it's so good to have that speed. And I think we're onto such a good thing in terms of executing. And I always think, the ideas are the cheapest part, right? The hard bit is delivering it. Like, anyone can come up with any idea ultimately. I think people say ideas are like gold. They're not. They're somewhat worthless unless you can deliver them. And I think the boys are a real testament to that, in that they, there might be millions of ideas. They may have had loads of these ideas before, but they've allowed us to execute, and they've been so supportive in helping us to then execute them to the point where it makes it really fun. And actually, I think, there's no real ambition to think beyond what we're currently doing. And I think that's also quite healthy. I don't almost want to look and say, right, what does this look like? What does this look like? And so on. And because I don't ultimately know, I just know that, we need to get these brands big and scale them and keep them moving and launch new stuff and keep everything going. That's if there's one aim, that's probably the main thing. And that's my primary outlook for the future, is just to keep going, rather than to look too far ahead.
You obviously have a family. Do you ever see your family growing up, working for you, and hopefully still being creative?
Yeah, good question. I think, you know what? I don't know, I think, I mean, yeah, I think it's so, with the boys, I say the boys, with my boys, my 2-year-olds, I have no idea. I think it's one of those things where I'm so excited to see how they grow, how they develop, how they become, bigger and older and more. How they become little people. I mean, they already are, but it's amazing as well just how quickly that comes, where they start really just being like, wow, you have a personality, you have a whole character, you are fully a person. That is mad. So I think it's just enjoying that. And there's no, I mean, I'm very, I see, it's all about them really, who they are, where their skills are, what ultimately, what's in their locker, like, and seeing what they want to do. It's an interesting one. I've not really thought about it too much. I think also with two babies, when you're up at 5 o'clock every day and you're changing, I mean, you're busy. Like, I genuinely don't think that much. It's really weird. I don't think and reflect too much, which is probably a drawback of mine at the minute, but it's just, the treadmill of two babies is a treadmill for sure. and the business. I always say, like, the business is the easy bit. Like, when you have two kids, honestly, business is your break. Work is the break. Which is actually also helpful because it means that you can do a lot more, I find. But yeah.
How much of an impact has, unfortunately, I will mention it, but how much of an impact has COVID had on you as a person and as a business?
Well, I think as a, I think as a business, it's been minor in Arcade. It was big at YMU for sure, because like we as a company put so much stock internally into events and into live, as everyone did, I think. And we really had a couple of good years of building events, making physical stuff happen. So when that just gets ripped away out of nothing, you're like, whoa, hang on, what do we do? And so much time and effort had gone into that. And somebody also I look up to, who I didn't mention before, but I should have done, is Mariam, who is the Chief Business Officer at YME now. And she was the director of live. And she, obviously her team were like scattered, because it's like, what do you do? Like, your whole team, she came over from Haymarket, is about live events, and she executed live events amazingly with her group of people who she brought in. But that whole unit has to go, and all those people have to almost find new homes, and their skill sets are incredible, so they were able to. But that, I mean, like, that is crazy if you think about it. You're going like this, and it's like and nothing you could do could have predicted that. So I think it definitely hit a YMU. It was quite intense. The year 2020? Yeah, 2020 was intense, super intense, as it was for everyone. And always perspective is really key for me. It's, it could always be worse, or many people in a lot worse situations than I was in or we were in. And we still had a business ultimately, right? A lot of people lost theirs. But for sure, it was an intense period of time where we were trying just to do everything we could to keep things moving, keep things growing, keep everything happening for clients who lost a lot of their business ultimately. I think that wasn't the best in tandem with having a baby in January of 2020. So that combination was a lot, I think. Man, it was tough at times for sure. And it was definitely like testing, but ultimately, we're through to a point now. And I think what was great about it was that it pushed me to learn to balance, and I'm still not very good at it now, but it pushed me to learn to balance family and work much more so, because everything was a lot closer. But also it was kind of the catalyst for allowing me to think about what's next. And I don't think that would have happened if it wasn't for COVID. Quite a lot of, definitely had a big impact, but not in the current work I'm doing, but a lot more at YME for sure.
You focus heavily on Generation Z because that is who is up and coming. But what kind of impact do you personally believe that Generation Z has on the world at the moment? Because there's a lot of people that are growing up with, say, social media, iPads, tablets, that people beforehand wouldn't have had. What impact do these people have on this world?
I think a huge impact. I think what's been amazing, I'll give an example as to the sort of impact. So Arcade, we have a group of sort of young, exceptionally talented people who kind of like, they're called like Discord kids, we sort of say. And they're these kids who like live and breathe Discord, live and breathe like, so they're like all under 20. And they're the most talented people I've ever worked with, genuinely. Like, they're all unbelievable. And it's funny to think actually just how much talent is coming up in this pocket of Gen Z, or even like the generation after that. But really, I'd say let's call it Gen Z now, who are just, they're just on another level. Like the speed of delivery, the talent, the sort of technical ability. You'll have an agency who we might be working with over here, and they'll be unmatched by a 16, 17-year-old from, Norway, or an 18-year-old from Norway, who is 10 times more talented than every single person in that agency, because they have grown up with this stuff and they've lived and breathed this stuff. And I think that's the bit that I'm quite excited for, but also a bit scared by in a way, in a good way. Like, what are these kids going to do? Like, they're so brilliant and so talented. And I think I sound like an old man now. Like, I'm 24, and they're not that much further behind than me, but they are in terms of their ability. They're on another world, and I think it's interesting to think actually how much talent there is within this generation at the younger end, who are really going to blow, I think, a lot of industries professionally, I'm saying, out of the water, just by their ability, by their sheer sort of technical graft that they've been putting in since they were like 12, 13, like younger, sort of like what I was doing to an extent, but just times by 10, 20, 30, because they are like coding, they're using like all sorts of software. They're really getting stuck in. I think it's super impressive to watch. So yeah, that's an example, I think, tangibly, of how they're having a massive, massive impact on everything that we're doing. This group of basically young wonder kids of the sort of social and creative world. And yeah, I think it's definitely exciting to think what that sort of person, and there are lots of them out there, can do for a number of industries and spaces. But yeah, definitely a big impact, I believe, definitely.
To sum it all up, what is the one bit of, whether it be life advice, professional advice, or just any kind of advice, that you'd give somebody if you met them?
That's a good question. I think professionally, I would say start, whatever that is. I think if there's one thing that I fight for daily, but is also something that so many people struggle with, it's anti-perfectionism and trying to make something perfect when perfect doesn't exist. It does not exist. There's no such thing. And a lot of people struggle with trying to craft things in a way that they think is absolutely perfect. And I think for me, that's a real downfall for a lot of people in terms of speed, because I think speed is the most important thing. We all have time, in the sense that we can all move. As our ideas are as limited as we are, and our circumstances in life are ultimately. And obviously, people have different challenges, whether it be obviously, dealing with work or dealing with family, and so many people obviously struggle and have challenges even just doing whatever, right? It's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy at all, because it's not. But I think one thing that I would say is, for people who have an idea and who can execute the idea, just starting, whatever it is, even if it is terrible, it's better than nothing. And I think was one thing that Gary Vee actually said when I used to watch his vlogs back in the day. It was always like, one is better than zero. One follower is better than no followers. And it's absolutely true. Starting and getting to one is better than having none and doing nothing. So I think, yeah, that's probably the one bit of advice I'd say to people is to start. And also, don't feel like you have to follow, in this space, be it social, online, etc. Don't feel like you have to follow what people say is the way to do things, who don't ultimately get it. The exact same challenge of digital culture degree. It's that same principle. Don't let those people tell you about digital culture. Like, don't, because if you have grown up in this age, and if you are young and you're hungry and you are passionate about this space, you will know more than every one of those lecturers combined about digital culture. Not saying they don't know much more about loads of other things, I'm sure, but about the culture that you're in and the social world of this generation, you will know 10 times more, by just existing in this time and living and breathing this stuff. So I think that's the thing, is have confidence in that. Don't feel confined to conventions in a time which is conventionless, which doesn't have a rule book. Don't feel like you have to play by rules that people who don't ultimately understand it are setting for you, because that will only limit and restrict you. So just go and start. That's the biggest thing. The best thing I ever did was start as quick as I could. 100%. Because it puts you a lot further ahead.